So what
And
you're more fresh off of it than me. I watched it the day it came out. Funnily enough, funny story. It's not a very funny story. It was just I was so busy throughout the week this week that I didn't even realize Thursday had come. So when I woke up, I just have a 9 to 5. So I woke up, I started just doing my job, and then 2 3 hours go by. Got to get up pretty early, around like 6 a.m. to do my thing. And then it was like 8 9 a.m. and I was like, oh wow, it's Thursday. There's a She-Hulk episode. Wow. So then I watched it like later in the day when I had time, and I thought it was a good episode. I didn't think it was bad. I saw a lot of people complaining, still complaining, I guess we should say. I don't know what all the hate is for the show. Honestly, I think the show's fine. Is it the best peak premiere television? No, but it's also not calling for that either. Like it's I feel like I don't know what it is. I feel like people are expecting this show to be something that it's not. It's like, I don't know what it is they're expecting because I feel like they advertised it to be exactly what it's kind of turning into.
yeah,
The only argument I would have to kind of for those people, and also simultaneously, I guess not with anybody complaining about it, is like I don't think it's leaning as much into that stuff as it could. Like
oh
my
sure,
my my argument with anything that like any negative detractor I would have with the She-Hulk show is like A, the length, because that impacts it no matter what. But just they're not it's I feel like some of the jokes just don't land, and I don't really know why. Like, it's like because in, like, theory, they're, like, funny when they happen. The setups are funny. I like the fourth wall breaking, but I feel like it's something that, like, they're just not doing enough. So it's a maybe that's what's affecting how it lands with me. Like, I don't know, I really don't know what it is. What did you think about it after being, like, kinda more fresh off it than I am?
yeah, I liked it. I've liked the entire series though. I've liked it quite a bit. The fourth wall breaking is great. Somebody I was talking to just recently. I was talking to a couple buddies, and one guy, the guy was like, "Yeah, I don't get it. I don't like it." I was like, yeah, but they could overdo it. Like I think they do it just kind of the right amount. They give little nods to it here and there, and they don't overplay their hand with it. So anyway, I really enjoyed all of it so far. And I'm gonna say something here. If I start to stick my foot too far down my mouth, you can stop me here.
That'll be a neat trick.
Um, yeah, right. If watching this show is what it's like for women to watch male protagonist shows, then I feel terrible that women have had to suffer through male protagonists. They do not make guys come off very good in this show. I mean, beyond Wong, I can't think of a single male character that's on this show, and I guess Bruce in the first episode. But every other male character has some glaringly awful defect. Like they are just terrible people. And so
Mhm.
it's very jarring. And like I mean, as a male viewer, maybe you're getting a little peek or insight into what it's been like for females to watch what is, I guess, predominantly been male dominated shows for the past ever. Um, but yeah, I was watching it just hoping that one of the guys one somebody a male character was going to show up on this show that wasn't somebody we knew, like that wasn't Wong or wasn't Bruce, and was going to be a likable person. And so far, I have yet to find one. They all, I mean, and they're not even close. It's not even like they're kind of bad. They're just outright douchebags, all of them. Like the guy that she goes on the date with and talks about himself until he starts playing around on his phone and completely ignoring her, and then sticks her with the bill. And then the next guy's bad, and then the next guy's bad. And even the last guy who
Yes, exactly.
she walks away with, you think, oh, okay, this is the one. This is the good guy. This is finally she finally found the one diamond in the rough or whatever. He turns out to be just kind of as scummy as the
Turns out
rest.
to weirdly only be into 7 foot tall green
Green
chicks.
green women, yeah.
That's what
Well, I
he's
mean,
into. As
you
soon
know,
as that broke.
I don't judge him for that. I mean, everybody has their own weird quirks, but
But it's like there's one
but
person in the universe who is like that. And for him
I,
to see that not be her anymore, it's like, what?
yeah, yeah.
That's what
Well,
did it for you? She's normal now?
That also
Oh,
begs the question of I'm also curious, like, Jen clearly is not protective of a secret identity in any way, shape, or form. But I'm curious about how much the news actually covers the fact that She-Hulk is this other. I mean, I'm guessing probably not much. I'm guessing to the news outlets that She-Hulk would be kind of a that I'm sorry that the character that the Jen Walters persona would be kind of a boring thing, and they probably wouldn't even talk about it or mention it very often. But it's that makes me wonder how much of the general public actually associates the fact that She-Hulk is not just She-Hulk, she's also this other woman, but
yeah, they seem to really not care about that at all.
yeah.
They don't acknowledge it in any way. Like, even though they're obviously the same person, when she was outside of Blonsky's prison, like they're only referring to like She-Hulk, even though she's literally there to be his lawyer, which is directly something that Jennifer Walters has been doing for the last 30 years. She-Hulk's only been on the scene for a couple weeks at this point, and it's like this big She-Hulk case. You know, it's like She-Hulk's the attorney, and they really the general public has really no interest in the the alter ego, if you will, which I guess is kind of the I guess they never really did that about I mean, they did that with Tony a lot, but Tony was much more of a public figure, I guess. I guess that is kind of like an odd thing though, because you would think that an attorney inherently also is a public figure.
Mhm.
But I guess since like her GLK and H law firm is specifically heading up a superhuman division, that maybe that's why they're really only focusing on like the She-Hulk stuff. Honestly, I guess the show is called She-Hulk and not Jennifer Walters.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really probably just as simple as that. It's just like, yeah, no one really cares. Like, no one read the She-Hulk comics to see what Jen Walters is doing. They read the
Yeah.
comics to see what She-Hulk was doing, and
She-Hulk, yeah,
so
sure.
I mean, I guess it kinda makes sense, but that's kinda like the weird, like, disconnect that just we as fans kinda have because we watch these things and we see them as characters, and then,
Mhm.
like, so we want the verisimilitude of being able to acknowledge like the realism of the world, right? And like in our minds, if this was a realistic interpretation of our world, which the MCU likes to say that it is, right? And for the most part, they do a good job about having all these fantastical elements, but they do try to keep it as grounded as possible and like show some verisimilitude, some realism with everything that happens, right? So when something like that happens, like when Moon Knight, when freaking, Khonshu and, the crocodile, why am I forgetting her name? The Amet?
Yeah.
when they're fighting in Egypt in front of the pyramids, and they're literally giants, and then it actually cuts to a shot of, like, Egyptian civilians just in Cairo or something, and they show them seeing it happen. Like, you see them, and you see them seeing these giant gods fighting above a pyramid, but then they never talk about it. Like, that kinda breaks the realism that they set up in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And the same with, like in this, we talked about it before on the news article when we got our first mention of Tiamat coming out of the freaking ground, almost destroying the Earth. Our first mention in the MCU post Eternals of Tiamat nearly destroying the planet happened in a byline, not even a byline, it was like an ad for another
Yeah.
article on the website. Like, that's like and it's little things like that that make people who are really I feel like we're a small demographic. We're just the people that are sitting here talking about this on YouTube and talking about this with people as if it's fucking just life, right? Like, so it's like
Mhm.
it's normal people, quote unquote normal people, probably don't really think about this stuff. But every once in a while, it does help to acknowledge it in a lot of ways, in my
Mhm.
opinion. What did you think about Donnie Blaze? Not Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, I know.
Donnie Blaze.
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it was
This
great. I
this
dude,
did
I
you
thought it was great. Dude,
this aspect of it, it was fine for what it was. I didn't. I mean, that I will say this. I'm having much like you were just talking about. We have become so accustomed to the MCU playing things fairly straight and fairly serious, and yes, they that's one of the things I've admired and loved about them the entire run, from the first Iron Man to what was last that came out from them besides this,
Moon Knight,
Moon Knight,
Kamala
I guess,
Khan, Miss Marvel.
yeah, Miss Marvel, all the way through. They've done such a good job of balancing the having it take a serious tone, but also having stuff that's humorous, um, and balancing it out. This is very much because they are trying to riff on the sitcom aspect of it. This is very much more jokes and more humor, and then that lends itself to being hit or miss, and some of it, it works maybe not as well for me as it does for other people, and I think this character was just one of those instances where he was fine, he was humorous, like I got the joke. It didn't quite hit as well, I think, for me as it does for other people.
I only liked it. I feel like I have to add the reason I liked it was because I watched Chris Angel Mind Freak.
Okay, let me.
I watched that shit
I'm gonna let you
because
go on your explanation for a second. I need to step away for just a second
oh,
though.
you're fine.
Okay.
The reason I liked like, I didn't mind, like, yes, it was over the top. It's ridiculous. But in this instance, I mean, that's the point. That's the whole point of this character is to be absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like one of the disconnects a lot of people are having is exactly what we were just saying, in all honesty. I mean, not to just rehash it up, it's just the fact that the MCU has since its inception back in Iron Man 1, especially in Iron Man 1, in all reality, it was a very grounded, realistic world. It was you saw Tony Stark build the suit and in a cave with a bunch of scraps, right? Like, we saw that happen. It was a very normal human story. You connected with the character, he did his thing. Enter Captain America, very normal character. He enters in, he can't do his, he's a little guy, he wants to be a big guy, and like through the magic of movies and comic books, he becomes the big guy. So it's like it was all been very real. But this show is it's a divergent from that. It's supposed to be something that the MCU is not. So that's why like a lot of this stuff has always worked for me, and I don't look at it with such a critical eye because I'm not expecting this to be real. I'm not expecting it to be the Infinity War. I'm not expecting it to be the next thing that like sets up the next phase of the MCU. I just think of it as just like an entertaining side story from some other character's perspective. And in a lot of ways, when you look at someone like She-Hulk, just this normal human girl who ends up getting the powers of the gods. And now you get to see what it's like from someone's perspective who is now essentially become a god. And now they have to deal with all of this bullshit that they always have to deal with, like John was saying, shitty dudes trying to, like, going on dates with shitty dudes and just seeing all these things. You're just seeing like a heightened, exaggerated reality. Is the way I always look at it, and especially with her breaking the fourth wall, I look at it as someone like making a YouTube video and like just kind of just over exaggerating everything that happens. I don't look at this being like I feel like if we saw John, I like know your thoughts on this. I feel like if we saw a lot of the events happening in this show from another MCU character's perspective, I feel like it honestly wouldn't be portrayed the same way. Like if this like when Daredevil, Daredevil Born Again show comes out, and then
Hmm.
they like if they were to write in that like Matt Murdock was this is a bad example because he's blind and wouldn't have seen it happen at all. That joke aside, if we would have seen this scene happen from Matt Murdock's perspective, it probably wouldn't have been as heightened. It wouldn't have been as ridiculous. It wouldn't have been as goofy because this is all from like She-Hulk's perspective, and she thinks it's ridiculous and she thinks it's goofy, and you're seeing her perspective of these situations. So it's just being overly exaggerated because that's how her character is perceiving and telling the story to the audience. Does that make sense?
Sure. No, I completely agree. It's it's one of the things that I found most intriguing. Marvel had a formula, for lack of better, and I guess they still do to a certain extent, but they had a formula that ran through all of the Infinity Saga. And they clearly have made a very conscious effort to deviate from that established formula and explore other. While the formula is still there in a sense, they've started to explore other genres since then, and other ways of telling their stories since then. And I think it's one of the reasons that Phase 4 has been so hit or miss for a lot of people is because it's kind of when you spend that much time and have that kind of expectation for how their stories are told and how they're done, I think it's a little jarring. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I had issues with the story itself, but it's also a horror movie. It very much they play into the horror elements. WandaVision. WandaVision was a very unique way to tell a story, jumping through the different decades of television in order to tell a story was I'm sure jarring to a lot of people. I personally loved it, thought it was brilliant, but I completely understand somebody that comes out of Endgame and goes, "What the f is this?" Like, okay, but I don't get it. This isn't for me. So, and now you've got She-Hulk, which is very clearly a sitcom, and they exaggerate every aspect of the sitcom. I mean, God, you've got the drunk girl who plays a major part in this episode, and she's so over the top in all her scenes, but intentionally so. So it works well if you're okay taking a step out of that structured, reliable reality that the MCU was so immersed in for the Infinity Saga.
Dude, you know what's kind of ridiculous with all that though? This person exists in our reality.
Oh yeah.
They exist.
Oh
She's
yeah.
real. They're out there. So the fact that people are like actually like so thrown off about it, and like it honestly just kind of baffles me. I really don't understand. Honestly, all the people to your point at the very beginning of this when we were talking about like all the all the men watching this, seeing how shitty that, those relationships, those parasocial essentially relationships have been perceived from a woman's perspective. Like they're looking at it as like, oh, like they're making men look out to be like these like shitty people. It's so anti-men. It's like, nah, dude, that's real life.
Yeah, it's
Like,
not that it's anti-men, it's just
yeah,
it's putting it's flipping the script, and it's putting
yeah.
instead of you seeing they've got, I mean, for decades the annoying stepmother is a trope that's been played out in things. Not all stepmothers are terrible, but in much media up until this point they've been portrayed that way. Women have been portrayed a certain way, and sometimes less than appealing manner, and many times in less than appealing manners in media. So to see that flipped and turned around in a show like this is interesting. But you're right. You have a that's a great point. That it I think the thing that throws people off, like you said, this woman exists out there in the world. There are people. There's women out there that are exactly like this
Oh,
woman,
there's dudes like this too.
and there are dudes. Yeah, no, sorry, I'm not
Oh yeah, there are
excluding. I'm just
dudes
saying
just like the dudes that she went on dates with. That's
exactly.
the point. I
But
feel like it's lost on people.
I think the thing that's jarring about it is they are not, while they exist, they're not commonplace in everybody's lives. For example, myself, and I know I'm not the demographic that would be encountering a woman like this because I don't go out to the bars and the clubs where she would be frequenting. Um, but since I don't meet somebody like this or know somebody like this in my everyday life, when I see her on the show, you have to be kind of in that world to meet these various different people. You have to, and so if you don't have personal experience with it, it comes off almost like a caricature of that type of person rather than the fact that there are actually people out there. And I think that is maybe what's a little, and again, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of people that are having issues with this show and speculate as to why. Um, because I personally don't mind it. Like I found her to be pretty humorous, and this scene in particular at the end I thought was really good between the two of them. Some of, but like we also talked earlier, some of it didn't work out so well for me. So it, it is what it is. I like some of it. Some of it doesn't hit quite as well as I think it probably or hopefully does for other people. But that's
Well, to
everything.
yeah, to that point too, I think a lot of it is like not even so much that like it's unrelatable in people's real life. I think a lot of the reasons some people are having issues with it is because it's not relatable in the world that the MCU has set up more
Mhm,
so than anything, right? Because we this is the first like comedy irreverent like well supposed to be comedy. Like I said, it's not the jokes haven't been, like, super hitting, I don't feel like. I think a lot of the setups have been funny and, like, they've been good and, like, a lot of the jokes execute and they're fine. But there's some times where, like, it's just like, yeah, it's honestly like we're gonna get into it here in a minute, but, like, with, like, Lord of the Rings, I feel like I get where, like, a lot of the things they're trying to do, but it's just the way it's being filmed and the way it's being just I don't know, the way it's being presented isn't just it's not always landing right.
mhm,
In some cases, at least as far as the jokes are concerned.
mhm.
That has nothing to do with people seeing, like, you know, seeing this, like, dating scene and being, like, offended by how the men are being portrayed or anything. It's like, dude, you're gonna act like there's not a dude out there that's like this, then you're just fucking in denial. Like, just as much as there's not a dude like this, then there's not a girl like that. Like, plain and simple. And you can't have one and not the other, right? It's like there's people like of all spectrums. People act different everywhere throughout the world. And like
Mhm.
this, I don't know. It's kind of baffling when anybody's just it's like I don't know. It just seems like there's people with like agendas. It's like, oh, they're making men look bad. It's like
Yeah,
newsflash, dude, men are fucking assholes
but
just as
that's
much as women are assholes. It's not limited to a fucking sex or a gender. It's like people are assholes.
but
That's why I
that's I
don't
mean
like people.
that's everything nowadays though. Everybody
Exactly.
has to have a hot take. So you got to find something. You got to find something otherwise your commentary is going to get lost in the shuffle. If you don't come out up with some extreme like off the wall analysis of what's wrong with it, then you're going to get caught and lost in the shuffle and nobody's going to care about it. So that's how you get clicks,
Oh, it's true. It's like if you don't put like the
likes,
if you don't put the
retweets.
googly eyes on your thumbnail and your fucking description and your title isn't like, X person is ruining in all caps, etc., etc., etc. Then it's just like, well, how am I gonna get clicks if I'm just I need to just like the show, they over exaggerate the personalities, they over exaggerate the situations. Just like all the people online who are complaining about this over exaggerate and just straight up essentially just lie and are being disingenuous about what's
Oh, sure.
actually happening on screen. Right?
Yeah.
Like no one in this show set out to shit talk men or just make big green women be the only thing that dudes want. Like it's like man, like the real the nuance of just life is really lost on a lot of people. I feel like anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
baffling.
Rationality is a lost. I don't know. It's just lost on so many people. Like it's all about extremes anymore.
Mhm. It's
So
either you're right or you're wrong.
yeah.
That's one of the main reasons, if I were to do, like, a movie review or something, I don't like to assigning numbers or, like, a letter grade to something, it's so pointless. because like, it just doesn't matter if I say something's a 7 out of 10, that means something entirely different to somebody else. Like, if I say She-Hulk's a 7 out of 10, I'll have people saying, "So why did you hate She-Hulk? You only gave it a 7 out of 10." It's like,
You didn't
that
hate it, like,
yeah, but like, that's really close to the
that's
like, perfect.
that's
Like,
a lot
that's
closer to the top than it is the bottom, yeah.
yeah, like, what are you talking about? Like, that's really good. That means it was good, but not, like, amazing. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's like, if you what are you talking about? And it's like, if you it's that's just, everyone's got their own perception of how
Yep.
things are presented, their own grades, and that's it's like the kind of the annoying thing about having just hearing a lot of the stupid stuff that goes on. Like, and man, just watch it. If you don't like it, that's the other thing too. Is like if you don't like it, why do you got to write like a 14-page deposition and post 10 YouTube videos about how much it's like ruining society? It's like if you don't like it, why are you spending so much time about it?
Yeah.
Like I don't know
Well,
about
and,
you. Like when I don't like
like,
something, I just don't do it anymore. I don't watch it. I don't talk about it. Like, just move on.
I don't have time for it. Like, I mean,
Yeah, like, what?
we're gonna move into Lord of the Rings here in a minute, and I am kind of getting to the point where I'm not sure that I like it, but I don't dislike it, and I'm willing to stick with it for a little bit longer just to see where they take it. Um, so I can see people that want to like something. Here's a great example of like I understand people that don't like something that they want to like. So Titans, the Titans TV show. I want to like the Titans TV show on HBO Max. I don't. I hate it. It's terrible. It's awful. It pains me to watch it most of the time. It has brief moments of like pure comic book stuff that I love in it, and I guess I stick with it for those purposes, but then I complain about it. So I understand people that get upset to a certain degree, but like you said, taking the time to I don't talk about Titans with people. I for the most part we've mentioned it on this show a few times, but mainly as kind of an example of a show that I don't care about and why I don't care about. But we haven't gone and done like a in-depth this is why Titans is terrible and we hate it episode or anything like that yet. So I guess I get why people so get when you care about something that much. I guess I can see the passion would get you so worked up that you would do something like that. But if as just somebody that's a casual fan, like I am with Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings, I'm not going to bash it and take the time to really tear it apart. I'm able to rationally look at it and say, I don't like this about it. I don't like that about it. I do like these one or two things. And so far the bad for me has outweighed the good, but I don't get real passionate about it. So I can understand some of it, but yeah, there's too much content out there, people. Like if you're going to spend that much time on hating something, maybe just see if there's something else out there you do like, because
Oh, I
man,
know.
there's a ton out there.
Well, this is what it
I'm
comes down to. It's just like for whatever reason anymore, like it's a sad world. I think eventually it's gonna change, but like right now, the way like the YouTube landscape works a lot of the times is like if I posted a video, like if I cut out the segment and just edited every bad thing I said about the D23 thing and just posted just the bad stuff and then titled it and made it, a thumbnail that just suggested that I was gonna shit talk D23 the whole time, that video would probably get more clicks than any other video that I posted. And that's just like the YouTube landscape right now for whatever reason. This online landscape, right? It's just like a lot of like hate talk and just negative feedback about things. It doesn't even matter what it is, just negative content about movies, television, political issues, it doesn't matter. For whatever reason, the negative stuff always generates more clicks. It generates more traction. It's more interesting to people. It's kind of like people wanting to watch a car wreck. It's kind of like human nature in a lot of ways. I don't think that's always going to be the case, but with the way everything is right now, like I get why people do it. It's just like, man, I don't want to spend my time just sitting here just making video after video about just I don't want to do it. I don't want to sit here and just talk about things I don't like all the time. It's like there's only so much time in the day. And there's,
Mhm.
like you said, there's only so much there's so much content. There's only so much that we can watch. Do I really wanna just talk about the thing that I'm quote unquote saying I don't like because it's gonna get me more clicks? Because you gotta think too, the other flip side of this is like how many people out there are just making the content for the clicks, which a large majority of them are. So they're just like faking every single thing they're saying. It's like they don't even genuinely have a competent thought or a competent analysis or a competent thing. This is like, well, it's cool to shit on Lord of the Rings, so I'm just gonna keep making like Lord of the Rings hate videos towards Rings of Power, obviously, because that's like the popular thing to do. So everything that I do for the next how many more weeks is Lord of the Rings on or Rings of Power on? Okay. Yeah, for the next 2 months, every video is gonna be about how shitty that show is.
Mhm.
What a fun life you lived. Like, I don't wanna waste my time doing that. I don't care
Yeah.
how much money I would get from the ad revenue, how many clicks I would get. Go fuck yourself, dude. Like, enjoy your life. It's so baffling to me, like, because there's tons of stuff I don't like about Lord of the Rings. Do I wanna waste my time talking about it? Not Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Need to correct myself. Just don't wanna insult
Clarifying.
anybody out there, yeah. Clarifying response, Rings of Power, plenty of things I don't like. Is it gonna make me make 15 editorial videos about why I'm right and why you're wrong if you like it? Nah, because I want everybody to like it. I hope more people like it than don't, because I'd love to see Amazon pump more money into it and fucking make it good.
Mhm.
Like, that's what I want. This is a good segue into Lord of the Rings. You are more fresh on Lord of the Rings, though, so what are your unless you have anything to say about She-Hulk? Anything
No,
else to
I
say?
it's ironic that we got kind of off on a tangent about people hating on
I
the shows
did.
when
Yeah, we
both
did.
but when both of us kind of I think we're in the same come from the same place that we think She-Hulk's actually pretty good.
It's fine.
Not
There's
not
nothing I
not
don't
my
like
favorite,
about it. Yeah.
but yeah, we actually both enjoy it.
If you like this clip and want to be a part of the conversation, come back and join us for our live House of the Dragon after shows every Sunday around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, immediately following the premiere of each episode on HBO Max. We're also doing live after shows and Q&As every Friday around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time for She-Hulk, Lord of the Rings of Power, and we'll also be doing one for the Star Wars prequel series Andor when that comes out later this month. So if you like those shows, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll get notified every time that we go live. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the chat and answering your questions in our next video or live stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video and let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe.